So about a month ago, I got the Google Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, and I think every year we always do a camera test, so let's just keep that going. This is the 7 Pro, this is the flagship, so we're gonna stick with that. We're gonna put it up against the iPhone 14 Pro. Specifically, this is the Pro Max, but the cameras are the same, so don't worry about that. If you're thinking that this channel is going to just pick the iPhone straight up as the overall winner, you're right. But hold on a second. It's not for what you think. And I'll explain why I would prefer the iPhone cameras as a whole. But for most of this video, I'm going to be talking about how good the Pixel 7 Pro cameras are because they're very good. And I think that it's all very close and it doesn't really matter which one you want to pick, except for if you want the best all around. There are a couple of categories where the Pixel 7 is not so good at. But let's start with photos, because just from taking photos, if that's what you do, you just take photos, you don't focus on video, you don't need some of those fancier features, then this phone right here is the phone to go with. Let's pop open the laptop, because in this laptop I have a bunch of photos queued up and we're gonna look at them together. We're gonna have a little talk about them. So let's start with photos in good light. And usually that's gonna be outside, you know, super bright skies out, nice weather, and you've got good lighting. And so right here, as you can see, it looks pretty similar. Like at first glance, you're thinking, Dan, these photos are, pretty much the same. How could you possibly choose? And yeah, I mean, I would say for most people out there, you can pick whatever. That's why I said a lot of this is very close. However, I'm gonna point out some differences in which you might start to see, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I think I do prefer one camera or the other. So let's look at the iPhone 14 Pro. And what it does more often than not is it seems to be kind of going to an extreme, well, not to an extreme, but it boosts a lot of shadows and a lot of highlights. So your highlights would be your lighter areas of the picture and the shadows would be the darker. And I don't know if this is like an HDR thing, but it's having a hard time kind of, balancing them out. So like right here along the skyline, you can see right above the trees that there is some little light here. It's a little bit different. It's not as blue compared to the Pixel 7 Pro. It almost looks as if this is being kind of washed out a little bit. And, it's not a big deal. It looks fine, but this is overall more of a lighter blue sky. This is a little bit more vibrant, which is strange because usually vibrancy and saturation in the colors is more of a Pixel 7 Pro thing. And you'll see that in different photos. But in this one, with this specific area, it seems to keep a nice blue sky throughout, except for the bottom above the tree and the skyline here. And then right on this side, it's a little bit more even. And then when you get down to the trees, this bottom left corner over here, you can see that it's washed out. And this is what I mean about the saturation of the colors. It's like, it's not nearly as colorful. The foliage is not nearly as colorful. And in person, I believe it really was more like the Pixel 7 Pro, where a lot of this was pretty vibrant. You had some reds and some browns and some yellows sprinkled in, and the greens over here were a little bit darker. And over here, it just seems to kind of wash everything out. Overall, they're both very good pictures, but I think I just preferred the look of the Pixel 7 Pro. Moving on to this one. Yes, my daughter is making a funny face in this one. It's hard to get kids to, not make funny faces these days. But if you look at this one, it's kind of doing a little bit of the opposite in certain categories or in certain areas. In the back here, I talked about the vibrancy and like kind of the colors being rich and not so washed out. Well, here, the iPhone's actually doing a pretty good job. It's still nice and vibrant and green, and over here, it's a little bit washed out. Unfortunately for the iPhone, this was a little more natural on this side. It was kind of a lesser green grass. It's getting to be that time of the year where the grass just isn't as green anymore. And so this is kind of what it looked like more often than what this side looks like. And it also just feels like a sharper image, a little bit more detail. If you look at this part over here, this like tree decoration, it's softer compared to the Pixel 7 Pro. Her shirt with the trick or treat text just seems softer. My son's hair, I can feel like there's more detail on the Pixel 7 Pro compared to the iPhone. Again, at quick glance, they both look like great photos, but you can tell that it's just having a hard time managing some of these certain areas of the picture. In between over here, where the decoration in the sky meets, you can see that it's definitely overexposing that HDR, the contrast between the highlights and the darker areas here. You can see that it's blowing it out compared to the Pixel 7, where it's not. It's retaining some nice light, and it's not nearly as just, overdone here. And this photo is going to follow the same suit as that first one, except it's just much more extreme. If you look here in the top left corner where you can see a little bit of the sky, again, it's doing that thing with the highlights. It's blowing them out. We're overexposing a little bit too much here. And then it's just very dull compared to this one. The Pixel 7 Pro has so much more detail. There's a little bit, it's darker on the ground, but it makes it for a better image compared to it being washed out and overexposed. The colors are more vibrant on this side, and that's just the way it naturally looked. And so, yeah, again, leaning towards the Pixel 7 Pro. Now here we get a little bit different. I kind of lean more towards the iPhone 14 Pro, especially when it comes to the water. The water was much more natural looking in the way it's supposed to be on the 14 Pro. It is kind of a greenish look to it. It is Lake Erie. It's not quite the best water, but this just makes it kind of darker, and it really makes the whole image a little bit darker. The skyline is okay. The clouds are okay for the most part, but it just kind of darkens the image a bit more, kind of doing the opposite of what the iPhone 14 does, where it either overexposes or it crushes the shadows too much. The Pixel 7 Pro here with this cloudier day seems to crush the shadows. And this photo is very similar. I think the only difference here really is the pavement color. And it's not so much the color as it is the shadows and the highlights again. Now I do think, again, here in this little clouded area, the sun's poking through. We're overexposing just a little bit. Really nitpicking though. I think this is an excellent photo on both cameras. Same thing here. The water is not the correct color on the Pixel 7 Pro, so I gotta go with the iPhone 14 Pro. And then as we start to zoom in, I believe this is the telephoto lens. So one thing to point out with the telephoto lens on the Pixel versus the iPhone is that it's 5x telephoto zoom on the Pixel 7 Pro compared to 3x on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. These are both good photos. We are starting to lose a little bit of that vibrancy. So as you change lenses, the color profiles change. This happens quite a bit, and it does get drastic depending on how much we're swapping back and forth. It's usually the telephoto lens has a hard time retaining the same color profile. And so and that happens. And so here, I don't really prefer the image out of the telephoto lens as I do with the iPhone 14 Pro. But now, the more we start to zoom in, this is weird. So this is a 15x. So this is starting to use digital zoom. And most of the time, Pixel usually wins with software, but the iPhone's doing a better job here. I do think the text is sharper. We have a sharper image. It's a little bit easier to read. But then the colors here and the contrast and the HDR is better on the iPhone 14 Pro. You can see the colors are vibrant. That is what it's supposed to look like. It's getting washed out. It's basically two different colors. We've got a red here and an orange here. And so something to keep in mind. I don't know how often we're using 15x. Google apparently seems to think that we're zooming in quite a bit because there is the super res zoom. I believe that's the name of the feature. Actually, I'm going to look this up because I have just been guessing. So let's see. So it's called the super res zoom, and we're going to talk about that right now as I just confirmed that is the name of the feature. Let's go to some of these pictures. Okay, so the iPhone tops out at 30x digital zoom. I'm sorry, 15x digital zoom. The Pixel 7 Pro, now you can guess where this is going, tops out at 30x. And so, really the difference here, obviously this 14 Pro picture is going to look better because this is 15x. But look at how good it is on the 7 Pro at being 30x. You can still make out what it is that we're looking at. You can still read text. You can't do that with the iPhone. It's impossible. You cannot go past 15x. And in some cases, which I'll show you right now, it does not look good compared to the Pixel 7 Pro. So let's find those photos. Okay, right here. So here we have the telephoto lens, and we're going to go up to 15 and 30x, and I want to show you how much better, depending on the lighting, the Pixel 7 Pro can be. So last time on the telephoto lens, I kind of preferred the iPhone. This time, I much prefer the Pixel 7. I think it's sharper. I think the colors are more natural. This iPhone 14 Pro picture seems to be adding in, they both kind of had different skies, and honestly, I can't really remember what the color of the sky was at the time. I want to say it was closer to the iPhone 14, but it's adding more of like a Instagram-y effect filter onto it, where it's kind of like making it warmer than it needs to be. I do remember the building not being this type of color, but being more in line with this. It's a sharper image. You can see here by making out all the details in the trees and the way things look on each level of this little balcony here. And also, if I was to zoom in, this is a 3 and 5x photo. I just kind of made them the same in terms of the crop. But if I cropped in myself, if I just pinched to zoom, you can kind of see the text. You can make out a little bit what it says. Now I know what it says, so I might be cheating a little bit. Let's go to 15x you can zoom in even more on this 15X and see that it says danger elevator hoistway. And I'm going to look at this camera right here to my right. You can definitely tell if you're looking at this camera that that says danger elevator hoistway. I know you can read that. And let's look over at the iPhone. Yeah, not so much. It looks like a different language to me. I couldn't tell you. So, and then of course with the whole color profile thing, it's a dramatic shift as we zoom in even further. It's having a hard time remaining the correct color temperature. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure the sky was more this color than this like bluish haze to it. It was sundown, so you know the sky does tend to get a little funky with the colors sometimes, but I think it was more in line with the Pixel 7 Pro. And you can still see a lot more detail. Obviously, you can still read this sign. So the super high res zoom, and this is only 15x. Watch what happens when we get to 30x. So I have to remain at 15 here on the iPhone because again, it does not go to 30. But even with the 30x, it's basically like me pinching the zoom on that 15x, but now I don't have to. I can just take a different photo. And so I was able to get a pretty decent shot of what that sign says. And like, this is how far away we are. I mean, this is, I believe this is the ultra wide. So like you can see how far we are. This is the standard photo. Like, look how far that sign is. I don't even know if I can crop in. Yeah, I mean, you can't even begin to make out what that says. So pretty crazy. If you're someone who takes a lot of pictures where you need to zoom out, you know, or zoom in quite a bit, then the Pixel 7 Pro is going to be the phone for you if those are the niche types of photos you like to take. Now, let's move on to night photos because that's where things take a dramatic turn. Actually, before we do that, I do want to show you right here another prime example of HDR and just the contrast between the highlights and the lowlights, the shadows, I mean. You can see here, it is just blowing this out of proportion. This area over here is so overexposed, and I don't know why, and it's changing the color of the sky. The color was pretty blue like this, and yeah, I know that this looks a little sharper, and it might be, but as a whole, this still looks really sharp and really good, and the rest of the image isn't so distracting from the background that I would go with this. Even though it's a little bit darker and it is weirdly doing what the iPhone normally does and crushes the shadows, it still makes for a better image here. So I have to say, I am very impressed with what you get out of the Pixel 7 Pro, especially with photos in good lighting. Now, it gets even better with photos in low light. So let's do that right now. As you can see here, I will say, and I'll point them out to you in a minute, there are some weird artifacting going on some of the Pixel 7 photos, especially seem to be always in the top left corner, a lot of noise, and I just don't know what's going on with that. It wasn't in every picture, but I did pull them up here so that I could show you that it does happen. But overall, you know, both phones will still take a lot of the other light sources, and depending on what it is, there's going to be some lens flares. And so I primarily like to pick the one that A, does a good job with the subject, and B, does a good job with the sky. And then if the lens flare isn't as dramatic and too distracting, then I'll usually go with that one. But again, the sharpness of the photos. Look at this house right here. You can see far more detail in this house, especially like the sky just looks so much better. Now it is taking another light source and adding a little pink hue to it, and it's kind of spreading, it's blooming out these lines here. Honestly, I kind of like the way that looks, but it isn't a good thing to be doing that all the time. So, you know, something to keep in mind. Here it is crushing the blacks. Now you might prefer that, but if your job is to get like a good photo and try to see as much as possible, the Pixel 7 is, first off, look at the crosswalk. It's far more sharp. It's not nearly as soft. Look at down here above the text. You can see how soft it is. So much more detail in the ground here. And then look at, there's a water tower here. If I was to cover this up and you were just looking at the iPhone 14, I mean, look at that. You can't even see the water tower. It's crazy. So again, something to keep in mind as we go through these photos. Here, I want to point out two things specific. And again, it's with the light sources and how these phones handle these additional light sources when in lower light altogether. Poly G's, by the way, if you're in Brooklyn, Greenpoint area, I believe this was, fantastic pizza. Get the Hellboy slice, hot honey. I'm probably preaching to the choir for people who've had this before, but it was my first time. It was so good. All right, besides the point. Look at Poly G's Slice Shop, this logo here. The light above it is shining down, and it's blowing it out. It's so overexposed. huge theme here. It just takes a much more natural, balanced photo on the Pixel 7 Pro. You can see the area, the whole logo for the most part. It's a little bit overexposed there, but not too bad compared to the iPhone 14 Pro. And then right here, we got that neon sign, Mike's Hot Honey. And I just think it looks better on the 7 Pro. It's a little blown out, it's a little blurry, it's soft compared to the 7 Pro. Again, you're gonna hear me say those over and over again because that's just the reality of these cameras. Portrait mode. We're gonna stick with nighttime portrait mode first because this is where the most interesting results came, but the iPhone 14 was god-awful, and I don't know why. I don't remember it being this bad, but it was pretty bad in comparison to the 7 Pro. Look at these pumpkins. I do think that it did a really good job of lighting up this first pumpkin here, but then it made the second pumpkin so soft. It's almost as if it only focused on this first pumpkin in the foreground being the one that's kind of the main subject of the portrait and then kind of blurred everything else, where the Pixel 7 Pro did the right thing and it grabbed both pumpkins, which is what I wanted to do, and then blurred out the rest of the background. And you can still see the detail of the house in the back. You can't even see that here on the iPhone 14. And it almost looks like someone, like if I took the picture and there was flash, which there wasn't, but there's so much more light over here. I don't know why, but this just looks natural and I like this one better on the 14 Pro. Now this photo here is the main photo that I want to talk about. I'm probably going to use it as the thumbnail because it's so drastically different. Now the dog does move. The dog is blurry in both photos. It's very blurry on the Pixel 7 Pro, I'm sorry, because it's moving. But she is standing still. And look at how soft and just out of focus and not good this picture is on the iPhone 14 Pro. And it's almost flawless on the Pixel 7 Pro. It's a portrait mode photo in the night. Beautiful skyline in the background. You can still see a lot of it, but it's got that nice depth of field. And then, yeah, the dog's a little blurry. It would have been cool if he stood still. But unfortunately, you know, just like my kids, I can't get the dogs to sit still either. So I'm just in shock at how much more detail and how soft it is on the, how much more detail and how sharp it is on the Pixel 7 Pro compared to what you're losing here on the iPhone 14 Pro. It almost looked like it tried to smooth out her skin as well, which is interesting because it just kind of made the whole thing blurry. And so, you know, if you're taking a lot of low light photos, portrait photos, the Pixel 7 Pro, again, this is why I said it's just naturally better overall when it comes to just taking photos. Now, sticking with portrait and going back to the good lighting portion of this, these photos are both very good, but they're different. We still get a different color profile here. It's very warm, and it's just different compared to the Pixel 7 Pro. So it's going to be a preference thing. I think my son is a little bit more pale than this photo is leading him to be. And of course, he's making a silly face as usual. But when we move on to this sign, they both really struggle with that when it comes to objects instead of people. But I do think that the iPhone 14 retains better quality with the text. Like I can see this better. The colors are still more vibrant. You know, it's washing them out. It's a different type of red, a little bit of a different type of yellow. But the text is just more crisp on this sign compared to this. However, you can see here, I'm going to zoom in just right here. In between these two signs, you can still see the water is not nearly as blurred as the rest of it. And the same thing goes for this photo here down. I can't zoom in. Why? Okay. Well, you can still see the Pixel 7 Pro is doing the same thing. And so that's it for the photo section. And I will say, to me, hands down, I prefer the photos that come out of the Pixel 7 Pro. But the reason why I say that the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the overall winner when it comes to just the better cameras is because, yeah, even though I nitpicked and found a lot of things that I liked about the Pixel 7 Pro compared to the iPhone 14, in a vacuum, they're still very good and very close, and they produce very good photos. I would say camera of the year for Android and camera of the year for iPhone. But the Pixel always struggles with video. It's always been bad. It is much better this year than it has been. Probably the best it's ever been with video. But the iPhone 14 is still, you know, the king when it comes to videos. You can take such good video. You do get cinematic mode and action mode, but you get the equivalent on the Pixel 7 Pro. I believe those are called cinematic blur and active stabilization. And honestly, it's just still better on the iPhone. I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. You can see the camera samples. So I just prefer the video quality that comes out of the iPhone. I do like that you can shoot in 24 frames per second, something that you can't really do with the Pixel. And so, yeah, I'm just going to say overall, if you just want to skip to the end here, hopefully I put down some chapters. If you really wanted my TLDR, it is iPhone overall camera, just because it has some really good video capabilities compared to the Pixel 7. But if you're just someone who takes a lot of photos and you don't care about software and you're just like, I just want the best camera for photos, this is the one. But I would love to hear from you. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Keep it civil, but let me know in the comments, and hopefully I can kind of have some good back and forth with you guys down in those comments below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.